We're heading towards the time of year where F1 teams start to make their decisions regarding their driver lineups for next season, and there are several teams with choices to make. The whole silly season has been blown wide open with Ricciardo rejoining the grid for the second half of the year, so which drivers are pivotal in this driver market? Let's have a look. My name's Andy and this is Behind the Drive. A returning team on the grid. Next year, Alfa Romeo will be off the grid. The team has been purchased by the Audi Group, and that name will join the grid in 2026. In the 2 seasons between, the team will be Sauber once again, a name that we haven't officially seen on the grid since 2018. Currently, that team has a strong driver pairing in Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu, but I would expect the new owners in Audi and the new Sauber CEO in Andreas Seidel to perhaps consider making a change if they see an opportunity for a strong driver who comes onto the market. Right now, Bottas is under contract until the end of 2025, and Zhou is under contract until the end of this season. The pair are both doing all they can with their car at this point, and of the 9 points scored by the team at the time of recording, 5 have gone to the Finn and 4 have gone to the Chinese driver. This suggests that both drivers are doing well, and particularly for me, Zhou, being in his second season in the sport, is showing that he's improving and establishing himself as a good driver that many teams would consider. In addition, Zhou offers a huge amount of value for the team from a commercial perspective. We haven't yet had a Chinese Grand Prix with the first Chinese driver on the grid racing, but regardless, the value of having him in the car will be significant for a team that has historically had financial challenges. But at the same time, Théo Pourchaire is widely regarded as a future F1 star and is part of the Sauber Academy. The French youngster is the youngest F2 winner and the youngest F3 winner, and is still just 19 years old. Right now, he's second in the F2 standings, and there is no doubt that while he's been in the F2 category for a while now, he will surely make his way onto the F1 grid at some point. Though in my opinion, the decision to switch to Pourchaire may be somewhat of a sideways move for that team. In my opinion, Sauber will extend Zhou's contract, and that is certainly the right decision for the team. But with Audi on the horizon and a new CEO at the top, there would potentially be temptation to look elsewhere if some big-name drivers become available. Hamilton's contract extension. Another driver that could be critical in the driver market for next season will be Lewis Hamilton. The Mercedes driver is out of contract at the end of the year, and he looks very likely to sign for the team for several additional years. Hamilton has made several comments about the fact that he's had conversations with Toto Wolff regarding his future, and both parties seem confident in a deal. However, strange things frequently happen in Formula 1, and the longer it takes for Hamilton to sign, the more the rumours will start to circulate. There's talk that Charles Leclerc could be linked with the Mercedes team, but given the Monegasque driver is contracted to Ferrari until the end of next year, that does seem unlikely. Mercedes right now have 2 drivers that will want to be the lead at the team in Russell and Hamilton. This feels like something that should have been a short-term issue, but was necessary to help keep Russell on their books. I think this pairing is working for now, with the team not fighting for the World Championship, but this could change in the future if they get back to the top. I think it's inevitable that Hamilton will sign for Mercedes for several more years. He seems passionate about the sport, and his drive to win his 8th world title is clearly there. But he's the only driver at the top teams that's actually out of contract at the end of the year. Before we look at the biggest transfer story next, I want to take a moment to ask you to subscribe to Behind the Drive. We're working to bring you the best F1 YouTube content possible, and it would massively support the channel if you hit the subscribe button today. The Red Bull Dilemma. With 4 seats on the F1 grid, the Red Bull team always seems to be in the conversation when it comes to silly season. This year is no different, as the biggest story in the paddock is who will be in the 4 Red Bull seats for 2024. Right now, Max Verstappen is a guaranteed driver in that seat, and you'd expect that Sergio Perez would be as well, given his contract runs through to 2024 already. But we all know that this isn't necessarily the case, and the Mexican driver's seat could well be under threat. It all comes down to Daniel Ricciardo. The Australian driver is in the AlphaTauri seat from Hungary, and based on comments from the likes of Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, he's been impressive when it comes to simulator runs and the recent tyre test at Silverstone following the recent race weekend. This media narrative has been an interesting shift in the last few months, as Horner has previously commented that the driver was showing some bad habits in the simulator that weren't there in his driving style when he left Red Bull in 2018. This suggests that Ricciardo has spent this time building his skills, and given he and Verstappen were quite closely matched back then, it could be assumed that Ricciardo will be well suited to driving a similar style of car to the Dutch world champion. Though this is by no means a guarantee, given it's been almost 5 years since they were last teammates and the cars are completely brand new. So, the Red Bull dilemma is all centred around the performance of Daniel Ricciardo in the AlphaTauri towards the end of this season, and also the performance of Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. Ricciardo reportedly opted not to join a backmarker team for this season, despite having opportunities to talk to some other teams, but he has now agreed to race in the team that sits bottom of the Constructors' Championship and is on just 2 points in total. To me, the only reason Ricciardo would have accepted this would be if he had been told that there would be an opportunity to race in a Red Bull if he performs well, taking Sergio Perez's seat. Right now, Perez is underperforming. He's failed to make it into Q3 for 5 times in a row, and while his race performances have been better, he's still losing out on points as a result of being out of position at the start. These kinds of performances are good enough for Red Bull in this season. Verstappen is doing so well that the team is still continuing to extend their Constructors' Championship lead, but with several teams making significant improvements, they may be more concerned for 2024. The team will want 2 drivers that they can trust, and right now, Perez isn't delivering on these needs. The team are notoriously ruthless when it comes to their driver decisions, and so the performance of Ricciardo will have a direct impact on whether Perez is still on the grid in 2024. I think it's going to be a fascinating few races given Ricciardo's AlphaTauri seems to be a handful at the best of times in the hands of Yuki Tsunoda and Nick de Vries. With regard to AlphaTauri, or the team that AlphaTauri will become in 2024, the Red Bull team will want to have the best 2 drivers with prospects of being in a Red Bull in the future. For me, I can't see Ricciardo remaining in the AlphaTauri for 2024. It will either be up to the top team or back to the reserve driver role for Red Bull, with his reputation in a position where he could go elsewhere or leave the sport for good. So in my view, both seats at the team could potentially be available in 2024, given Ricciardo's situation and the fact that Yuki Tsunoda's contract expires at the end of this year. Tsunoda's season so far has been strong. He's comprehensively beaten Nick de Vries, who was seen as the driver to beat in that team. It's clearly not a great car, given Tsunoda has taken just 2 points this season, but for me I don't think Tsunoda's position in the team is secured just yet. Being put up against Ricciardo is not an easy challenge, and while Tsunoda is likely to be kept on for next year, he has a new test coming up through the rest of 2023. As I mentioned with Ricciardo, I don't believe the Australian driver will stick with AlphaTauri beyond 2023. I could be wrong here, but if he is to go, then I believe Liam Lawson will be a driver that will continue to be discussed through the rest of this season as a potential replacement. The New Zealand driver qualifies for a super licence already, following his 3rd place finish in F2 last year. He also has impressed during his practice sessions in F1 cars. This year, he's racing in Super Formula, where he's currently in a close-fought battle for that title. I think he deserves a shot in the team, but he isn't the only potential rookie driver to look out for. Ayumu Iwasa is another Red Bull junior and is 3rd in the F2 standings right now. Iwasa is clearly a talented driver, as he was 5th in the category in his rookie year. This is a strong set of results and will surely be recognised by the 2nd Red Bull team. With the rebrand of AlphaTauri into a Red Bull sister team again, they may want new drivers out there. Alternatively, they may offer a seat to one of Ricciardo or Perez, depending on which one gets confirmed to be in the Red Bull next year. As I've said before, I don't think Ricciardo would take it, but I don't know what Perez would decide. Either way, an awful lot hinges on the decisions of Red Bull when it comes to this year's silly season. Haas. Haas is a team that has made several changes to their driver lineup in recent seasons. This year they brought in Nico Hülkenberg to join Kevin Magnussen, and I think the German driver is well secure in his role and will be kept on for the duration of his contract, which is due to run to next season. But Kevin Magnussen has found himself behind Hülkenberg in the standings and has quite often been outqualified by his teammate. Earlier this year, it was reported that Magnussen was given a 5-race ultimatum to ensure he could secure his seat for 2024. It's since been reported that the team will likely keep Magnussen alongside Hülkenberg. This isn't confirmed just yet, so it's probably one to watch. Logan Sargent. The final driver whose contract is up at the end of this year is Logan Sargent. The American driver is a rookie in the Williams team, having performed well in Formula 2 throughout 2022. Right now, Williams seems to be on a roll and is making significant progress through this season. This progress is being led by Alex Albon, who scored all 11 points for the team. It's expected that Albon will beat Sargent over the course of the year, but I think this second half will be crucial for the American rookie. Sargent has undoubtedly improved through the season so far, but he's lacking points at this stage in the season. If McLaren's recent pace translates into the rest of the races this year, then points will be harder to come by. But Williams are also improving. If Sargent continues to miss out on points while his teammate is scoring, then I expect the team will consider alternative options. They have the opportunity to score more points if they have two drivers that can deliver. Personally, I think Sargent needs more time. He's shown huge improvements and will likely score points before the end of the season. The improvements the Williams team have made has coincided with the improvements from Sargent, and I think we'll see him on the grid in 2024 as well. But if a seat does happen to open up at Williams, then I think it'll be one that many drivers would be interested in based on their recent uptick in form. So those are the drivers that will be pivotal in the 2024 driver market. For me, it all hinges on Red Bull as they seek to ensure to have their best drivers on the grid for next year. But let me know which move you think is most likely in the comments.